Hello and welcome to the Future Couch. My topic today is the Metaverse. I'm going to find out if it's just a nerdy experiment or a game changer for companies in the future. I have Christian here with me, who's from Detecon. He's an expert on the topic Metaverse. Christian, I'm so happy we're over that time where we just meet virtually. So let's dive right into the first question. What is the Metaverse?
Good that we start with the easiest one of those you could have posed. So from my point of view, it's way more than we even conceive at this moment. Because we saw different approaches for metaverses. We saw the Second Life, which looks a little bit similar to some of the worlds we see right now, with purely virtual worlds, 360 degrees, you build your shop, you can see some environment, and maybe you can interact with some avatars. That's good, that's nice, that's fun. That's also what most of the kids do nowadays. They play in Fortnite and so on. Also their virtual worlds, maybe not with many participants at the same time. That might be just a small part and a small fraction of a metaverse, as derived also by some of the big tech companies in the field. So from my point of view, and also from what I learned, what we discussed these days, it's just enriching that experience, that the metaverse is way more. It's actually connecting with the information we have all around us. So it's not new, because we are constantly creating information. We do it in industry, we do it in our daily lives. So I'm tracking constantly when I'm running or things like that. So there is a lot of data around us. But we can only perceive it right now with the normal screens, as we have them in front of us, the mobile ones, the more fixed ones with the cables still attached to it. But we can only access it that way. Also the machine data and so on, all is part of it. So we have digital twins and so on. We created of real objects with a somehow virtual representation of state, of location, or whatever it might be. We have all these virtual worlds we already created. On top of it, that's a huge virtual space we placed on the real world. And the question is, how do we access it? Is the only answer to that, I think we also had the discussion already, do I put on some glasses? Do I shut off basically the real world where I can see it? And that's the only way how to enter a metaverse? I don't think so. Because if it's about the information we have all around us, it's about, first of all, how is the information represented? How can we receive or perceive the information? That's fine. We can bring that into the real world. You see some applications from furniture stores and anything else. All of a sudden, I could imagine how it would be to have another couch here. Just to see it, to move it around, and I interact with that virtual cut model, which someone perceived. Can do the same in the factory with a machine. Have out of a sudden factory planning and things like that. That's great fun. I could also go that far and create these virtual objects. Can create it here in the real world because I have the right measurements of a table, so I can create something to that. I can go in the tools I know beforehand, so completely in the virtual space, and I think the real fun, and I guess we are looking forward to, is how do we interact with it in this middle world? Is it something like Pokemon Go in the end, that we all just do that? How do we perceive it? Is it normal that we have virtual things? We also might think about the Emperor's clothes, that you might perceive me now with a white shirt. You have no idea about the right NFT. It's striped, it's colorful and anything. If you have the right glasses or look at me now with your smartphone, you might see it. This very rare pattern on that shirt, just in augmentation, for example. So, a very short answer to that topic to start with.
Thank you so much for the brief explanation. So I take away the metaverse is powered by the gaming industry because you had a lot of use cases that were, rooted in the gaming industry, like Pokemon Go. You have different, also in my friends groups, there are different metaverses like, Decentraland that are also, that have only games in them. But the thing that's interesting to me is how companies interact with this, I would say, new technology. It is a mixture of technologies, of course. We can get into what technologies are needed to, set up a metaverse, I would say. But how do companies make use of that?
I think that goes alongside the same lines. So first of all is, as they started before with the first implementations, they just put there a representation, something which is maybe a little bit more fancy than you would build in the real world, just to see that, to interact with what they already have. Actually, to make it more accessible, easily accessible. You don't have to travel there. You just use your mobile device, your smart device to see it. That's the easy way from a sales side, I think. The more interesting part is when we really talk about, for example, industry. As I mentioned before with the digital twins, that I now go, for example, into a factory. Because I have all the IoT data, I know maybe where I am, in what situation I am, what role I have, what permissions I have. I look at the machine directly close to the entrance and I see something completely else. I might be the guy having the qualification to run it, so out of a sudden I see a control panel. When I look at it, I can modify it, or I had modified it already, to my individual style or a working environment. I could interact with it quite well. Maybe I'm the head of a factory, so I just see the IoT data and how efficient is it running at the moment. Is it running at the moment? So basically, depending on context also, I get the information which is there, hidden in all the different systems, all the different islands. I make it accessible and get information on demand as I need it, just to have information, to interact, or even contribute to the information to that. And some scenarios, just going back to the virtual, first might be training. Training on expensive machinery, on difficult processes, which you also didn't want to crowd usually in a factory because it has still to work and produce something. So let them train there before they destroy everything on the shop floor. Or usually the worst scenario, they are stopping it for a few minutes. So that's already bad enough. And then they can come back. They go to the assembly line, for example. They have to produce something, since we are not the guys anymore who want the black Ford model, because we have a choice. We can have a black one or the black one or the other black one. No, we want it in all colors and so on. So they have to produce basically individual products almost every time. And who can remember that if it wasn't done before? So they have trained. Now they get even some overlay. That's, I think, what we all mostly know from AR cases, augmented reality cases. How to place it exactly. And also have directly the sensors in place which can confirm is it placed right and so on. So it's already an interaction with the ideal state and with what's really happening.
So information on demand. I am thinking that it might be difficult with the infrastructure we have today here in Germany to really set up a metaverse that works. I'm thinking about, me watching YouTube videos on the go and not being able to watch it because, the internet is too slow. So what is needed to really make sure that the metaverse can develop the way we want it to?
That's a very good question. Because we're right now always pushing the limits, trying to find something new. Maybe the next stage would have been naturally just watching 2 YouTube streams at the same time, for whatever reason that might be. When we talk really about these immersive worlds and many, many, many more objects with all the detail, because we want it in 3D, not only a picture, and then all of us being to see it in the same time, not like in the video games, because they reduce it. They just give you an instance of a big world because they can't handle all of it at the same time or only at great expense. We have to find a new kind of resource sharing or running it more efficiently. So cloud will be involved, edge will be involved, but also latency. Because when we want to react with it in the real world, it has to feel instant. Otherwise, we did experiments with that, with the glasses and just a see-through mode. You can't even pour a cup of coffee anymore without spilling the whole kitchen. It's horrible in that regard. So 5G might be an answer, or other communication methods like that. For the instancy, we need the cloud processing and so on in the infrastructure, and it will be way more than now. Because to cope just with the IoT data, with information data, which was basically blindside or maybe a few videos or something like that, we created already a new kind of architecture with the cloud and the hyperscalers. Now we're talking about dimensions to the power of something more of data. We have to process at the same time, simulate, render, and whatever it is. So a hyperscaler might look poorly in comparison to what we actually require. We need a metascalar architecture behind it. We have really to think on a completely new scale of architecture, of interoperability and so on to pull that thing off.
Thank you so much for your insight. Metascalars, I think that's a great word. And I think we need to end it right here because people might need to look up some of the words you just used. So thank you so much, Christian. And this was on the topic Metaverse. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in to the other future couch videos. I'm looking forward to it. Bye.
Bye.